I'm Cody from Game Life Balance US, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other geeky podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1...
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
As a Canadian, I will say that more than likely, I'm just going to get screwed another way. That's the way it always works.
They're knowledgeable.
Maybe that's where life began, on MU-69. We don't know.
And sometimes they're a bit angry.
Skype, I'm breaking up with you. It's not me, it's totally you.
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 220 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. My name is Stephen John Drew, and with me, of course, is the tea to my saucer, Chris Farrell.
Why am I the T?
We've also got, of course, the coffee to my insert thing that goes with coffee, Stargate Pioneer.
It's nice to see the GonnaGeek.com show sort of catching up to the other shows on the network in terms of episode numbers like Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. and All Things Good and Nerdy, both with more than 220 episodes.
You know, that's a fair point, and one that I'm just not going to argue because it's true. It is totally 100% true. Just silence. For once in my life, I don't disagree with you.
I'm just judging you right now, silently. It makes for great podcasting and video casting, my silent judgment.
Oh, I like
now
it.
Bask in my silent judgment.
We are here with the official GonnaGeek.com show, and if you're not familiar with us, we like to talk about the latest happenings in the world of geek. This is the penultimate 2017 episode. That's right. We've got this plus one more, and then the year is over, and we will not have any more GonnaGeek.com shows in the year. So there you go. And also next week, we will have the mid-season finale of the GonnaGeek.com show.
Indeed, even the GonnaGeek.com show deserves a mid-season finale, or some prefer the winter finale.
That was a fake laugh because mid-season finale is the only legitimate term. But yes, we do talk about the world of geek, and today we have a bunch of geeky news points. Plus, we're going to talk about a certain big deal that happened last week. There was a very large deal that happened between two major corporations, and we're going to break that down. But before we get there, let's just take a moment to remind you that we are indeed part of the Gonna Geek Network, and also on the Gonna Geek Network is this little show that you might have heard of called the Starling Tribune. The Starling Tribune is a show that covers the CW television show Arrow, but when there is a mid-season break or a year-end break, they cover other things, and you should check out this week's episode, which covered episode 1 of season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow. Check that out on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. It is a wonderful show.
It's Earth 2's favorite audio newspaper, the Starling Tribune.
True story.
Yeah.
Have you heard of these guys before? No? Well,
And who are
but
they?
I
Are they
ha-
a bunch of hacks?
I have heard of a Rubicon, which was an amazing episode, which we may or may not talk about on next episode.
perhaps. But let's go ahead and roll into our news. Here we go. There's an old game of cat and mouse that happens occasionally, and by cat and mouse, I mean Cold War, and by Cold War, I mean Amazon and Google hating each other. That's right. We talked a little bit a while back about how Amazon and Google have had an interesting relationship. A few years back, Amazon decided that they were going to no longer sell the Chromecast or the Apple TV. This was back in 2015, so they pulled it from their site. Well, of course, this is because they made similar products, such as the Fire Stick and the Fire Stick Basic and other crazy things. And guess what happened? Well, all of a sudden, Amazon came out with this really cool device called the Amazon Echo. And they came out with a version of it where it would have a little touch screen on it and a little screen that you could do things on it. And so they thought, well, let's throw YouTube on there. And to which Google went, no, you can't put YouTube on there because we don't like you and you're not selling our products. So they held their ground. And then next thing you know, the YouTube app was no longer working on the Amazon Echo Show. Then Google or Amazon found a workaround and they said, well, then you know what? We'll just use the web version, just the basic web version of YouTube. It'll be a little different, but it'll still function. To which YouTube went, no, we're going to block those two. So they blocked those devices. And long story short, this ended up a bit of a stalemate, and it looks like Amazon is giving in. That's right. Amazon did announce that they will be selling, of course, the Apple TV and Chromecast coming up in the next few weeks, allegedly. They said, I can confirm that we are assorting Apple TV and Chromecast. That was what a spokesman said by email. So this is pretty interesting to see that Amazon's caved. And honestly, I think that this is the right move. I don't like when we get these companies in pissing matches, but I will say that I think that this is the right move for Amazon to make. They are a retailer. I understand they're trying to push their own agenda, but ultimately they've coming out with some products, and the more that they push, then what ends up happening is you're going to have just crippled devices because they're going to fight back. The companies like Google are going to fight back. With that said, I think Google was a little bit extreme to go ahead and block. I think that it's ridiculous. I understand that was their leverage, but you can't buy an Apple TV or a Chromecast on the Apple Store or in an Apple Store. So I think it's a little bit hypocritical, but I'm glad to see this looks like it's working out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. For those out there that have bought an Amazon Show or maybe even an Amazon Spot or are going to buy an Amazon Spot, which is the smaller version of the show, not as good speakers and more like just a basic alarm clock. We'll see when those people open their devices on Christmas Day and go to try to play a YouTube video. We'll see if that YouTube video is actually available through an app or not. We'll see. This is just 1 week away at this point in time. So we'll have to come back in the new year and report on whether or not this app is available or not. Well, I suspect that there is more company foul play to be had in the future.
Let's also remember the reason YouTube got pulled from the Echo Show is not necessarily, the first time at least, not necessarily because of the disagreement between them. It's because they weren't using the YouTube API correctly. I.e., they were getting away from the subscription methods and the thumbs up and thumbs down tools that are a mandatory part of using the YouTube API. They didn't do it. And they got away with it for a while until Google finally said, no, this is the fundamental way in which you need to use it. And they yanked their access. I mean, the current way you access YouTube on an Echo Show is basically through a web browser. It basically pulls up the website that your YouTube video is, and it plays that way, is my understanding. So maybe they'll come up with a better implementation of it. Really, the worst one was saying we're going to yank access to the YouTube app on the Fire TVs, be it the stick or the box and things like that, because they were posting a notice on there, what was like January 4th, I think was supposed to be the drop dead date. That's when you would no longer have access to YouTube on a Fire TV stick or box, which is, like we said before, the only people that win here is the companies, sort of. The customers all lose here in these kind of pissing matches. So hopefully they've gotten that ironed out, but all this has really done is further cement me down the path of saying, you know what? When I'm buying streaming boxes, I'm buying Rokus right now because everything is on a Roku except for the iTunes store. And I don't care. I don't buy stuff through iOS, anything like that. Even if I did, all my movies would sync through Movies Anywhere, so I don't care. I'll stick with my Rokus.
Yeah, Roku has Vudu on it, and that's all I care about. I did upgrade one of my daughter's Roku devices over the holidays, and it is amazing what's available today. It's lightning fast. The quality is great. As long as the internet connection is there, that's good. So I don't know. I think the bigger story here is not necessarily the companies fighting over their apps on each other or being able to sell their devices. I think it's the net neutrality, and we'll see how that all pans out in the next year or so.
Just ask Mark Hamill all about it on Twitter. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, by the way, in the chat, a couple quick things. First off, we have Emily Prokop, who says that apparently we set off her Google Home. So thanks for that little tidbit. I'll make sure that I trigger it all the time now that I know that. Secondly, we had, of course, the wonderful quote, which is 1987. Quote, "They're wiretapping us." 2017. "Hey, wiretap, order me a pizza." That was from Seth in the chat. And yeah, you know what? Go ahead, wiretap me. That's fine. Whatever. I got nothing to hide, especially my pizza orderings.
Steven, is pineapple a legitimate topping for a pizza?
Next up in the news, we've got Mozilla. Mozilla, right, Chris?
That's right. Let's talk about Mozilla Firefox. And there's a scandal again that emerged around Firefox because we love scandals. So if you download the most recent version of Firefox, the newest instance being called the Quantum browser, you might have noticed that there was a new plugin that was popping up in your browser called Looking Glass. And you could have gone, wait, I never remember having this Looking Glass plugin. So when you go and look it up, all it has for the description of this plugin is my reality is just different than yours. So if you're like me, you would go, WTF, mate, I didn't install this, and this does not sound good. Well, as it turned out, this Looking Glass extension, or plugin rather, is part of the Mr. Robot TV show's long-running alternative reality game, which left a trail of clues by writers for you to discover. According to Mozilla's documentation, this plugin was designed as a shared experience to further your immersion in the Mr. Robot universe. There's part of me that's just going, oh, this sounds really weird. What it did, it made minor changes to only specific websites, likely leaving clues for people who are playing the Mr. Robot augmented reality game. But it's a plugin that popped up unannounced on my computer, and that would alarm me. What are some of the scary things about this? Well, evidently unknown Mozilla developers can distribute add-ons to users without their permission, it's looking like. Also a problem. Mozilla developers can distribute add-ons to users without their knowledge, because that's exactly what happened here. You download Mozilla or you upgrade, you get a plugin you never wanted. Developers themselves didn't realize the consequence of doing this, and experiments are not explicitly enabled by users. Now, it wasn't enabled by default, but it was there, and that's scary. So how did Mozilla respond to this? Well, they moved the Looking Glass plugin to Firefox's public add-on store. They also made the code available in a public repository. And on top of that, they issued a statement saying, our goal with the custom experience we created with Mr. Robot was to engage our users in a fun and unique way. Real engagement means listening to feedback, and while the web extension / add-on that was sent out to Firefox users never collected any data and had to be explicitly enabled by users playing the game before it would affect any web content, we heard from some of our users that the experience we caused created confusion. Yes, it's because we don't like these things this is a soft auto opt-in, so it's better than some of the stuff Facebook does, but you basically forced an extension on me. Yes, it wasn't enabled, but you forced an extension on me of something I wasn't expecting, which then causes panic as I go, is my browser compromised? What does this mean? It's the same thing we get mad about Facebook for when they change something and they automatically turn on location services when you post an update. And you're like, I never wanted this. Why is it telling everyone that I'm in this town when I post this status update? I never wanted that. And you have to go and dig into the application and turn off the default setting they change on you. This is kind of scary for browser makers to just slip in an extension. Yes, it wasn't enabled, but it's setting a dangerous precedent. And it kind of worries me. And I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Glad I'm not on Firefox right now. Yes, I know Google tracks everything I do in Chrome, but at least they're not slipping in extensions I never asked for.
Yeah, I gotta say that I know it's slightly different, but I think the answer and just the obvious moment with this is the fact that Apple a while ago gave people free music, and it still was met with backlash, right? Remember when they pushed out U2? Like, they gave people free tracks and everybody hated it. Like, how can you not realize that sending something to somebody is going to cause problems? Like, it's dumb.
Let me opt in, don't opt in for me. Don't make it an opt-out service. Give me the choice to say, yes, I want this. Don't give it to me to then make me go, no, I don't want this. Make it go away. That's not the way to do it.
SP, what's your thoughts? I know that you're all about the security, which is why that you've actually gone by the alias Joe Schmo in recent, just because SP was a little too close to home. I know.
You just told everyone.
My alternate reality name, man. Okay. So a few things. First of all, I still can't get rid of that stupid U2 song on my iTunes. It's still there. So there you go with that. I know exactly what you're talking about because I saw it in my purchase section. I'm like, it shouldn't be there. Why is it there? I want it gone. I'm not that big of a fan of the song. Well, it's still there. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, Mr. Robot's episode, the titles, they're actually pretty cool. They're some sort of coding phrase, I guess is the best way to describe it. So if you want to get into that, look at the episode names for Mr. Robot. Number three, I left Mr. Robot after the first season. The show's not for me. It was way too dark for me. I mean, I'm not into dark. I'm into enlightening for my entertainment, and that was just not it. But it was a decent show when I was watching it. Number four, if you mess with my security on my computer, you need to take a step back from that. I know it's eventually going to be inevitable because I'm opting into everything because, yes, I use Chrome. Yes, I have this wonderful house full of Amazon personal assistant devices. Yes, I have all that. But if you're just going to do this in Firefox, which I don't use, by the way, so no big deal to me right now. But if you do that sort of stuff, you're going to end up making your customer base mad, and then they're not going to want to use your stuff anymore. And then it's just, it's a downward trotting thing. And then eventually you'll have the web browser named Netscape.
Ew.
Damn, now I want Netscape. Thanks, SP.
No, you don't want Netscape.
You're welcome. And then use Alta Vista for your search terms.
No, you got to use Dogpile.
No way, it was all about Lycos, man. All about Lycos.
Lycos. What about Ask Jeeves?
I was going to say, that was the other one. Ask Jeeves, I remember that. And Ask Jeeves, you can never actually ask Jeeves a question. Well, Firefox, way to go. You screwed it all up because you came out swinging. You got some stuff with Reggie Watts doing ads for being faster. You made some goodwill for allegedly being faster, even though none of us saw it. And then you went and undid it all with this bad will. So way to go, Firefox. As usual, you dropped the ball. Smart move. All right, speaking of smart move, this is actually full of smart moves because we got a modern era space race going on, don't we?
We do. We have two companies that are slugging it out right now. We talked all about how SpaceX is going to launch Elon Musk's electric sports car into Martian orbit, assuming that the rocket doesn't actually blow up on ascension and everything else works okay on the way to Mars, which is highly doubtful. But hey, it's a good college try, right? With $1 billion rocket. So we'll see if that works. Well, now Boeing seems to want to get in on the race. According to a space.com article written by Tariq Malik way back on December 7th, he said the race is on to Mars. It seems, and Boeing's CEO believes the mega rocket his company is helping to build for NASA will deliver astronauts to the red planet before billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX. So Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg was speaking on CNBC when host Jim Cramer asked whether Boeing or SpaceX would get a man on Mars first. And Muilenburg said, eventually we're going to go to Mars. And I firmly believe the first person that sets foot on Mars will get there on a Boeing rocket, not a SpaceX rocket, a Boeing rocket. Ooh, game on, right? Boeing is the main contractor for the first stage of NASA's giant space launch system, which is designed to launch astronauts on deep space missions using the space agency's new Orion spacecraft. NASA hopes to build a deep space gateway near the moon before using SLS and Orion vehicles to send explorers to Mars. The first test launch is scheduled for 2019. Elon Musk, meanwhile, has long aimed to build a colony on Mars using SpaceX rockets. The Red Dragon capsule comes to mind. We talked about it before on the show. The company is developing a reusable mega rocket called the Big Falcon Rocket, or BFR. We also know that rocket has a different name, but Okay, we'll go with the big Falcon rocket for you guys.
The big frackin' rocket.
That's not it either, but we'll go with it.
Is it the big Farscape rocket?
Okay, you could call it whatever you want. Elon Musk actually let the cat out of the bag when he first announced it. It is an adult word for the F term there. Okay. The BFR would fly astronauts to Mars, the moon, and other deep space destinations. SpaceX also aims to launch a new heavy lift rocket, the Falcon Heavy, in January. Last week, Musk announced on Twitter that the Falcon, this is a couple of weeks ago, announced on Twitter that the Falcon Heavy's first test flight will launch his own Tesla Roadster into space, its destination Mars orbit. So the Mars gauntlet appears to be thrown. In response, the Twitter account citing Muhlenberg's Mars claim, Musk replied, "Do it." So actually, Musk really just wants to get humankind to Mars, and he's trying to push it forward. So he really doesn't care who gets there, but I can guarantee you he cares who gets there because, well, he's a businessman and it all counts. The folks at Boeing then rose to that challenge on Twitter and said, game on. So guess what? It's game on. Boeing versus SpaceX. We'll see who gets to Mars first with a human being alive.
That last amendment that you had there was a little important one. Alive.
Right. Well, I mean, it goes back to the initial CNBC interview that was done. Eventually, we're going to go to Mars, and I firmly believe the first person that sets foot on Mars, meaning is walking alive, will get there on a Boeing rocket. I think that's also a stab at SpaceX on their safety and their quality controls, because Boeing has long purported more industry standards for those, and SpaceX is kind of skirting those to get the job done. So we'll see who actually gets there first. I don't know. Elon Musk has said that he fully expects the BFR not to work the first couple of times that they throw it up. Okay, well, that's a lot of money to expend on a rocket and to learn lessons on, whereas Boeing, they've already learned those lessons and they're capable of going to Mars within the safety margins that are standard to NASA.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Quest.
Are there laws on Mars?
There's maritime laws on Mars because it's the space laws. It's based on maritime law.
Okay, so what do they dictate? What sort of things do the maritime laws dictate?
Well, it's just like if you were on the high sea. So I'm having a problem finding out where you're trying to go here.
Okay, so basically they probably don't get down to little fine details. Like right now, if I wanted to change my name, there are laws that say I have to go through a legal process, right? Presumably, the maritime laws don't cover that level of detail, right?
Well, I think it goes back to like if your name is on like the title of the ship or something, that doesn't matter.
Okay, so then what I'm getting at here is that if I was the first person going to Mars, I could probably, without any real paperwork, because there's not really that much laws that cover it, I could probably just start calling myself Matt Damon, which is what I think that the first person should do, is they should call themselves Matt Damon, so Matt Damon can be the first person on Mars.
The real question is whether Matt Damon will get there on Mars first on a SpaceX rocket or a Boeing rocket.
Okay, and here's the other thing. If there is legal requirements, let's just go ahead and start that Kickstarter right now to fund the first person to legally change their name before they leave, because I'll go ahead and go through that.
Matty McMackface Damon.
Well, the rocket itself could be called Matt Damon. Matt Damon blew up again. Oh, sorry.
We need to save Matt Damon again. Oh, darn.
All right. And in our extra news point here, we got a couple of interesting things. Number one, guess what? Apparently, Google is making some changes. Those of you who are familiar with the Google Assistant will know that for a very long time, you have called on the Google Assistant by saying, okay, Google. So you've said those two words together, and then it's ended up triggering off the assistant. Well, when the Google Home came out, it had an alternative way that you could speak to it. You could say that, but you could also say, hey, Google. So you could put the two of those together. By the way, the pause is there, so I'm not setting off devices if you didn't pick up on that. So you had both options there. Now, apparently, Google is working on rolling this out to certain phones. They started betaing it a while ago on the phones, and now more and more in the past week are starting to get an update where people are being asked to reset up the key where you got to go through that that voice model training, apparently that's coming out to a bunch of phones now. In fact, I remember seeing that pop up on my phone and I haven't done it yet. So I'm guessing that mine probably has that. Now, I think this is okay. I guess it's a more casual way to do it. My theory since I heard about it is that they were kind of moving towards that direction because it makes a little bit more sense than okay. But yeah, anyways, it's interesting to see them doing that migration. Chris, have you got it yet?
I don't really use it very often on my phone, to be honest. So I have no idea. Probably since I'm running a Nexus phone, my guess is it's already working on there. I just don't realize it.
SP, are you using this yet?
No, but I have started to use the hey and then insert space and then the Siri command. So I have used that successfully lately, which is a little shocking to me because I didn't think it would work. It does. It works. Now, the response might not be what I want, but at least it answers me.
I will say this, that I think there's still a little bit of niceness of having your phone different from your Google Home if you've got it, because I know that there's a lot of people who are having troubles with the two of them not knowing where you're near and they're both answering. So I've seen that a couple of times. And so it's kind of nice if you can use the hey for your Google Home and you can use the okay for your phone.
I do have an anecdotal thing to add here because, well, the kids got a bunch of dots for Christmas and they started setting them up in the house. And I told them, well, I don't want you on my account because you can only stream music from one device. So if I'm streaming music, I don't want you to take that music from me or me to take that music for you. So go ahead and set up your own accounts. Well, the problem is, you know, that nice home integration that it can tell which one you're talking to? If it's on a different account, it assumes you're talking to all of them.
Which is pretty awesome because, like, why would you not want to have 5 different accounts listening to every move of yours?
Right. So if you want to say, you know, hey, activation word, play holiday music, it will play holiday music and it's not all the same when it comes out either. It's random which song it starts with. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting when we get to the point that we can specify which unit, like it'll integrate as part of the keyword. I think we'll get there eventually. That's my random conspiracy theory on it.
Well, I don't think the device was ever really made for a community living situation in mind. Right. It's meant to have one account throughout the entire home, or at least a distributed family account. In this particular case, I think the college living era is going to really take hold eventually, and they're going to have to decide which one is which, and it'll come from a certain voice recognition as well. Say, like, I own a device, it's going to learn my voice to be prime on my device versus another device, but that's a whole privacy situation beyond what we have now, so we'll see what happens.
You know, the other workaround too, if you are someone in that situation, is you can set a different keyword, because the Amazon Echoes, you can set it by the A word, you can set it by computer, you can set it by
so I brought that up.
Yeah.
You're totally right. I brought that up. Nope. Nobody wanted to change the activation word. They all wanted to keep it the same.
It is tough. And that's one of the funny things about it is I switched mine to computer as soon as it dropped because I thought that would be awesome. And then it was like, oh, I miss her. So I brought her back. But maybe one day you guys can get over your little self-pride there. Next up in the extra, we have an interesting piece that came from Amazon Prime Video. If you missed this last week, finally Amazon Prime Video did drop on the Apple TV. That's right. If you had an Apple TV 3rd generation or higher, you can get the Prime Video app on there. Now, 3rd generation is the one that started doing 1080. So if you do 1080 on it, you've got a 3rd generation or higher.
I might. I don't know. I thought I had 2nd generation, but I might have 3rd since it is 1080.
So if you've got that, then the chances are you have the 3rd generation and you can get that. In fact, in Canada here, it actually came through. I didn't even have to do anything. It actually just automatically came through. And apparently the Prime Video app set an all-time tvOS record for downloads. Apparently the app was the most downloaded of any tvOS app ever within the first 7 days. Now, I'm guessing that's partially because it was probably pushed through to some people like I had. I'm guessing as well it is something that a lot of people wanted to try, because how many people get it for free, right? They get Prime Video for free. Why would you not try to put it on your device if you've got an Apple TV? And I'm looking forward to using that, because I do watch I can't remember the name. Grand Tour. Thank you. I do watch that, and it's not bad to just occasionally pull up and see what's on there.
Which there was a lot of commercials for that in the last couple of weeks, because it like literally came out with season 2 the last couple of weeks. So I could see a lot of people downloading that. Although I have a question for you, Stephen. You said it automatically distributed to Canada. Is your device a Canadian-based device or an American-based device that you had shipped over the border?
Apple TVs are available in Canada. I do have an Apple TV.
Okay. Well, the question still stands.
It's Canadian.
Canadian? Okay.
It is Canadian. It is a Canadian device purchased in Canada.
A likely story.
Off of the back of a truck.
And it says made in America. But no, check that out if you haven't already and you have an Amazon account. You might as well throw it on your Apple TV if you've got access to that, and watch some free content, because you're already paying through your $90 a year or whatever it is. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up our news. Should we just go ahead and dive into the Fox Disney deal?
Let's go in the 10-meter board and just dive on into the deep end.
Yes. We talked briefly about this a few weeks back, and the rumors were there that Disney was looking to purchase a bunch of Fox assets, and we said we would talk about it if it became legitimate. And this Thursday, it was announced that Marvel, I was saying Marvel, but Disney and Fox came to an agreement. Now, the reason why I was saying Marvel is because this is exciting for a lot of geeks for a few different reasons that we'll touch on in a minute. But Disney has come to an agreement with Fox for $52.4 billion to purchase a whole bunch of Fox properties. That's going to include Fox's TV and film studios, cable networks such as National Geographic and FX, as well as international TV businesses. Now, this deal does not include Fox News, Fox Business, FS1, FS2, or the Big Ten Network, which will all remain under control of Rupert Murdoch. Now, just to clarify, this means that the Fox network that you know, the channel you see, Fox Network, will remain under Murdoch control. But not all of the studio content.
Okay, wait, a question. $52.4 billion. How much did Disney pay for Star Wars?
Oh, that's a good question, Chris. Do you know off the top of your head?
I actually know.
Okay.
Is it 4 or 8 billion? I can't remember.
It's $4 billion. Wow. How much did Disney pay for Marvel?
$2 billion.
$2.4 billion. So, yeah, this is way bigger than both those deals combined and multiplied by like 10 times.
You know, so we're going to talk a little bit about some fun, some things to think about, some speculation and other moments. But one of the things that I just want to start off with right off the bat here is that this is a very interesting business move for Disney, because Disney has come under scrutiny a little bit in the last 10 to 20 years because they've gone away from the usual Disney sort of genre, the happy-go-lucky, right? Marvel's a great example of that. There's some serious storylines in there, and they've gotten into that, and they've gone away again from the happy-go-lucky thing. When you think about Fox, this is including Fox Studios. Remember, this includes so many movies that are just like not of a certain genre. Fox has a lot of different properties under there. So this is a huge expansion of business for Disney.
The play here for Disney, it's not necessarily as much about the movie side of it. Remember, we kind of laughed and made fun of what was a month or two ago. Disney's like, we're going to start our own streaming service and we're going to make it cheaper than everyone else because we won't have as much content. Well, what did Disney just get with this acquisition? Content. There is a lot of television programming and rights owned by 20th Century Fox. You've got The X-Files. You've got How I Met Your Mother, I think is one. No, that's a CBS. But you've got a bunch of different sitcoms. The Simpsons, for instance. Futurama. Those are all things that are owned by 20th Century Fox that now belong to Disney. And now Disney can throw in their streaming service. So instead of logging into the FXX website to watch The Simpsons, you have to get the subscription from Disney if you want to watch the entire back catalog. They bought a boatload of television programming. And I think that was one of their primary things, was setting up their streaming network, becoming a competitor to Netflix, and taking some of that content away from Netflix. Plus, they also own, 60% of Hulu now?
Yep, exactly. Majority share of Hulu. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. You're right, though. Content is a big leg up for them, because now they have access to all this content, and it just increases the value of their app.
Content is king, man.
So the geeks really are focusing on two things. First of all is we want our 20th Century Fox logo in front of Star Wars again, and the distribution rights for Star Wars A New Hope and the original series trilogy of Star Wars. That's big to a lot of people. And then a lot of other people are saying, wow, this combines a lot of the Marvel characters back from Fox. It doesn't solidify everything back into Marvel, because remember, Universal and Sony own characters as well, but it does combine a lot in there. So yeah, those are two things. But I just want to reiterate here, that is just two small things amongst everything that Disney got for $52.4 billion pending government approval.
Now, just to put this in perspective, think about some of these iconic television shows that you wouldn't traditionally think with Disney. You think of things like 24 and The Simpsons. All of these things are things that Disney now owns and can extort to a degree, right? Like, it's amazing to think about the plethora of what they've got available to them outside of geek culture.
Here's the other complication, though, too. Remember, you said they're keeping the Fox network? Well, a lot of these shows that were made by 20th Century Fox when it was owned by Fox is now made by the division that is now owned by Disney. So how much is Fox paying to keep these shows that are currently on the air that are now Disney owned? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it might be part of the deal that nothing changes there, at least for now. But if anything is created with those IPs in the future, that would be changed. I don't know. I have no idea what the terms of the deal are. I just see that Fox wouldn't completely neuter itself completely
right.
with this.
So that might be the case short term, but what do you do 2 or 3 years from now when all of those shows are wrapping up and getting canceled? What content do you fill in with? Because you don't have an in-house production studio anymore, basically. Because if you look at what's left for Fox, it's news and it's sports. Are you just going to make the Fox network channel mostly news and sports? Are you going to push just cheap reality programming out there so you can keep the channel alive when you lose all these other things? It's going to be very interesting to see how the Fox TV channel evolves and if it even survives.
And don't forget that there has been a huge sports issue in the past. Actually, it's been growing the last few years, but this year has been just huge because the revenues for such things like NFL have started to decline. So it's not as profitable for production houses or TV stations or series like Fox and ESPN to actually broadcast this stuff. Yeah, you still have like the World Series and big ticket items, but is it really worth the money that they're paying? I don't know if it is, and I don't think that Fox can actually sustain itself with that business model, paying what the going rate is these days. I think we're in for a market correction, or the Fox distribution network as it stands now collapses.
Here's one of the things that I want to think about right now and speculate on. In the chat, we've got some people talking about how we've got Chris pointing out that maybe we'll get the Fox fanfare back on Star Wars. Do we think they're going to keep pushing the Fox brand? Because they've kept Marvel Studios as part of Marvel, but nobody else owns the name Marvel. So this is a different beast. You're going to still have Murdoch with Fox News and pushing the Fox brand. I don't know that Disney is going to keep using that name. I personally don't foresee it. I think they'll come up with something else for that side of their business. I don't know what they're going to call it, but I don't see them continuing to push and give somebody else free advertisement for a name.
They're going to resurrect Miramax.
Maybe. There you go.
no, I mean,
for the Star Wars issue, it's brand recognition. It's how everybody remembers Star Wars starting. So I can see them bringing back the 20th century, big, huge 3D thing with the flashing lights. I could see it for brand recognition for Star Wars, because a lot of people associate Star Wars with the original trilogy. But for stuff going forward, I just don't see it.
I don't think they will. I don't think they'll bring it back because it's, again, all to do with someone else's property, and Disney, why do they care about that? So yeah, okay, it satisfies a few fans. They're not losing fans because there's no opening, the searchlight thing. It's not
about that.
People.
It's about fan excitement.
Yeah, well, they won't do it. Maybe they'll use the theme in like a ride or something, but I don't think that I don't think it's going to come back to the movies.
Funny you mention rides, Steve. And remember, Universal Studios has a giant Simpsons theme park. I wonder how long that's going to stay at Universal Studios now, or how long that contract's left for.
So I do know some personal background of like situations. So take a look at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota, just by the airport there in the Twin Cities. The rights to Snoopy left, and they had to bring in, I believe it's Nickelodeon. I could be mistaken about that, because they had to rebrand everything, and they had to remove some rides that were Snoopy specific in order to take it out of Camp Snoopy, which no longer exists.
Well, talking about rides, like if you go and you look at like the Fox properties, the general Fox properties, a lot of what they have would seem to fit well into more something like Universal Studios than a Disneyland or a Disney World. Could we see an evolution in Disneyland and Disney World now with all of these? Because in recent years, Disney started to really adopt their movie properties and stuff that isn't traditional Disney in their parks. What sort of evolution might we see now in Disneyland and Disney World with this?
The evolution's already happening, man. Look how much money they've shelled out, how much land they've set aside for the upcoming Star Wars world and things like that. That evolution's already taken place, and bringing in more and more Marvel stuff in there. Once that Marvel deal with Universal runs out, don't be shocked if you start seeing like a Marvel Island or something there. Disney is paying money hand over fist to extend the park, to tear down old stuff and replace it with the big money makers they've just purchased.
But what I'm talking about is, like, you think about it and you go to Universal Studios and there's a Jurassic Park ride, and then there's a Backdraft ride, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff, right? There's quite a variety of different types of films. Maybe we're going to get that with Disney, where there's going to be like this themed ride and that themed ride, all based off of different Fox properties.
They could do a movie park. They could create an IP park or a movie park, which is separate from the Disneyland and the Epcot Center and MGM. And I guess they could evolve MGM, because that's where it all is right now. And then, of course, Animal Kingdom. There's only so much land around there in Orlando that, and it just depends on if they can grab land and how many people they can go in there. Okay, so you take a family down to Disney today, and if you stay a week, and if you get a park hopper pass, you can pretty much do 3 parks in that week, because it takes a while to do a park and get all the rides and get the ride share or ride hopper. I forget what it's called. That you actually reserve a time slot on some of the higher pressure rides. And it takes a day or 2 to go through each park. I can't imagine them throwing even more down there, because you're not going to be able to go through all the parks. And a lot of people can't afford to stay there for 2 or 3 weeks. They can't take time off from work, and they can't afford to stay down there. It's like a couple of grand a person a week down there.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the true geeky things with this deal. Number 1, I'm going to start off with my wish list, which is that I'm wishing that we get a good Fantastic Four. I'm hoping that that's one of the things that ends up happening, because I think I haven't seen it yet, but from what everybody has told me about the latest Spider-Man is it really just appealed to that fun Spider-Man style of basically that Spider-Man theme that we expected. And Fantastic Four is supposed to be like that. Fantastic Four is supposed to be more fun, and they've always taken themselves too serious. So I'm hoping that eventually we get that. I don't think we'll get that for this phase, maybe the next phase, but I'm hoping that we get that. The other thing that I think we should talk briefly about is the R-rated properties. Fox has Deadpool, and they also did Logan. Those are both R-rated properties. This is something now that Disney gets. What do we think? We think they're going to make an R-rated like division or something like that?
Well, Bob Iger already said, remember, Bob Iger is the current chairman of the Walt Disney Corporation or whatever, and this deal has him on board until 2021 now. He said in different interviews that they're not opposed to continue to do R-rated movies. They just need to make sure that their customers are well aware of that this is an R-rated movie.
Well, that's good to hear.
So
That's great
Deadpool's
news.
going to continue, and I could see them continuing to take chances with some things being R-rated. Do I think they're going to go out of their way to be like, let's make an R-rated Avengers? Absolutely not. But do I think they're going to take some of the more mature characters they have and potentially do an R-rated movie? Absolutely. They'd be foolish to not continue doing Deadpool flicks. They'd be foolish not to continue to take chances. Like, I don't think it's going to be good, but I admire them for taking a chance on the X-Men side of the house by doing that horror movie that's based off of one of the X-Men teams or something like that. I don't think it'll be good, but it's a chance. And Disney can afford to make chances here. That's the thing we've seen. Look at their projects going forward. They've done movies where you go, we're getting an Ant-Man movie? What the hell? Why are we doing this? We're doing Star Wars movies that aren't about the main trilogy? Why are we doing this? They've proven they'll take the chance. So don't be shocked if they continue doing R-rated movies. They just want to make it explicitly clear that this is R-rated. And perhaps they're not under the main Disney brand. Perhaps there's some kind of spin-off they put it under. Because remember, Miramax used to be Disney. They put out a bunch of R-rated films, including Kevin Smith movies. You didn't know they were Disney until you saw where it said a Buena Vista Entertainment Division or whatever underneath of it. So it's not unheard of. They just won't necessarily brand it as Disney, I don't think.
And this is definitely not as unheard of. So in Disney's history, they made the jump from G to PG with The Black Hole back in 1979. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. So they made a leap already. And I think they'll make the leap to R, but I think they'll only make the leap to R with properties that they think they're going to make a lot of money off of. It's all based on money. It's not like, oh, we want to go artsy, or we definitely want to go R just because we want to do R. It's about the money. And if they can make money on it, like Deadpool, right, then they will definitely do it. And they'll do their market research, and they'll find out when they can and when they can't make movies that are R. They already do risque stuff. They do PG-13 stuff right now. It's just a matter of time before they go into the R realm. They just can't do another John Carter.
That's just because it was crap, not because of any rating.
The other thing that we kind of thought a little bit about was the fact that Gotham, which is a DC property, is on the Fox channel. Now, here's the fun thing about that, is that they're on the Fox channel. They're not a Fox studio property. They're a Warner Brothers television property. So I think that's, an example of possible conflicts that might end up happening that, in my opinion, might drive, I don't think there's going to be this harmonious relationship between Fox and Disney. I think that the deal's done once the assets and stuff are moved over. I personally think that it'll just go ahead and just ship on and move on, and they'll go their separate ways. That's my personal take on it. I think there's if you look at some of the ways that the ABC channel has treated things, I think that there is definitely some grounds to show that Disney and Fox don't politically to get along either. And that's why I think that there'll be a big separation as the years go on. One last thing that I want to mention on this here before we do wrap up is that apparently the government might be investigating the merger. That's right. According to Variety, top Democrats have voiced their concern about the merger, which could potentially violate antitrust laws, is what they say. Now, I asked this question offline myself as soon as I heard about this, because I thought maybe that would be too much power, but Disney and Fox together only control 40% of the movie business. I don't think that this is going to go anywhere. It's a lot, but I don't think it's enough yet to say that it's going to go into antitrust territory. But I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. I am definitely not the financial nerf center correspondent of the GonnaGeek.com show. But I questioned it, but after I read into it, I don't think it's going to happen.
So who controls this decision? Basically the Republicans, since they control both the House, the Senate, and the White House right now. And I just don't see them by the time this goes through, it's going to be well before January of 2019. So I think they stand a good chance of pushing this through. I do have something that might affect me, actually, is that with Disney in control, I don't know if they're going to yank the carpet out from shows that are produced for the Fox network as soon as they have been on Fox, or airing shows out of order or something like that. So this might actually affect my decision to only watch shows that are 3 years running on Fox, NBC, and Sci-Fi.
I think that's a really good point, because we mentioned that at the top of this, that we don't know what is the Fox network going to do for content, because traditionally networks have a large portion of their content that is developed by their studio. Now, obviously, they have all sorts of other scenarios where there's content that their studios make that aren't on their network, or there's other networks other network in-house studios that have their content on Fox and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, because presumably, let's say that Disney continues to take some of the Fox studio properties and continues to have it showing on the Fox network. Well, you know that they're not going to let Fox just screw them around like they did, right? You know, they're going to put in some controls, because the last thing they want is the network to go and kill their property because the network made a weird decision. So I think that we'll start to see some controls, and you're probably right. We probably won't see this weird stuff happening anymore with Fox studio properties.
Well, it's something to keep an eye on.
Look, all that matters to me is just give me a good Dr. Doom, and I don't care about the rest of it.
You don't want a hacker Dr. Doom? Wasn't that what it was?
So bad.
Well, let us know your thoughts. Tell us, what do you think about this merger? What are you excited for? What are you wondering? For me personally, I gotta say, Disney Princess Chloe O'Brien from 24. That sounds good to me. I really like the idea of walking through Disneyland, seeing the hacker, seeing the whiz, Chloe O'Brien from 24 there. I can get on board with that.
More importantly, Disney Princess Kaylee from Firefly.
I like that.
I think we're going to see a revised definition of what constitutes a Disney princess.
So do get in touch with us through any of the ways. You can find us at twitter.com/GonnaGeek. You can go ahead and find us at facebook.com/GonnaGeek, or send us a voicemail or a text to 567-343-4335. That's 567-343-GEEK. Let us know, what are you excited about? What do you just hope that just goes away now that Disney has control? Because we know that there's some things that you're hoping so. But that is going to go ahead and take us towards the end of the show. Before we wrap up, we'll remind you again that we are part of the Gonna Geek Network. And also on the Gonna Geek Network is a variety of amazing geeky content. You can find that at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Please do check out all of that there. And make sure, if you are listening to another Gonna Geek show, if you can just write one email, just one email. Don't write it to me. Write it to that Gonna Geek Network show that you are checking out, and tell them how much you like their show, because it's always nice when you're podcaster to hear from the people who are listening. Not everybody does things live, and so we have the good fortune of being able to see some people interact live as we record, but a lot of people don't do that. So please do write that show and tell them how much you do like it. Chris, you got anything that you'd like to plug and promote before we say adieu?
Doom!
Oh, they're getting the Doom video game franchise? Sweet. SP, do you got anything that you want to plug or promote?
I'm looking forward to that original trilogy series box set with the original 20th Century Fox logo.
Does Han shoot first in this box set?
Han always shot first. I mean, come on. He had to protect himself. It was self-protection.
I like it.
So, for episode 220 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew, saying that Fox is Disney, but Fox is still Fox, unless, of course, you're talking about Fox News.
The Fox is the Disney princess now.
I'm Chris Farrell, and I say, Doom!
Hashtag Chris loves Doom.
It's true.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@gonnageek.com. You can find our entire archive at gonnageek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live.
The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com.
This show was produced and edited by Stephen John Drew of Gonna Geek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.